Our St. Louis Dragons have 5 more games left in the regular season of year number 3, and all hands are on deck for a potential playoff push. Our opponent today is the 1-11 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are obviously not that good of a team. Hopefully we can get a win here and get back over 500. Our team has been on a roller coaster throughout the year. There really hasn't been much consistency, but boy, it has been a fun ride. In the last episode, we split our 2 games, dominating the Niners on the road. Who could have seen that coming? 34-10, and then losing at home to Atlanta, 38-24. The Falcons as well, a really solid team. And we've got a tough schedule down the stretch. The Niners and Rams are Super Bowl contenders, and it's really hard to beat the same teams twice in the same year. The Panthers are no slouch. The Colts aren't horrible. And the Bucs, well, I mean, they're an NFL team. That's all I can really say. Before we get started, though, we do with a prospect profile. We'll begin with the prospect profile since we only have 1 game in today's episode. And we'll be going through the hog mollies, the offensive and defensive linemen in this year's draft class. We spent a lot of money on the offensive line this offseason, adding Jedrick Wills, Ryan Jensen, Tyron Smith, and eventually Morgan Moses via trade, and it hasn't really worked out. Not so much because of performance, but because of health. Look at Tyron Smith, for example. He's only played 7 out of 12 games, and he's gotten injured during a lot of games. He has started and finished 2 possible games this year out of 12. That's not good. Ryan Jensen has missed multiple games. Jedrick Wills has missed multiple games, and Kenyon Green really hasn't been all that good. The only offensive linemen who I would say have been reliable are Morgan Moses, who's 34 years old, and Royal Osuchua, our 6th-round rookie. Other than Osuchua, I'm not convinced anybody on the offensive line will be a long-term piece. So because of that, we are definitely going to need to consider drafting an offensive lineman early in this draft, and there's plenty of talent. We'll start at offensive tackle with Mimoni Tuliisi out of Oregon, who is currently projected as a potential candidate to be the number 1 player off the board. Obviously, there's no top quarterback in this year's draft, so it'll likely be somebody of a different position. And Tuliisi is one of the best blindside blockers in the country, and he's really athletic. I think the ceiling with him is really high. A lot of scouts compare him to his Oregon counterpart, Penei Sewell. There are some other potential first-round tackles here, including Dutch Koldyke out of Wisconsin. I actually think he's a little bit more polished as a player right now as opposed to Tuliisi. I think he's really solid in the pass game and the run game, but I think he's a little bit limited because of his lack of mobility, which could be an issue against more physically talented, faster, quicker NFL edge rushers. And then there's Asher Kritz out of the University of Alabama. The Tide continue to produce out offensive tackles like it's nothing. I think Kritz has a good level of football IQ along with his ability in the run game and the passing game as well. Again, not the athlete that the top tackles are, but he still looks really solid. At right tackle, we've got a few more guys who I think could go in the first round, and that starts with Prince Johnson out of Penn State. I think Johnson's a really intriguing player, one of the best run blockers in this class, and we've seen the pass protection from him at times be really impressive, and I think his ceiling is amongst the highest of any offensive player within this draft period. There are a couple of right tackles behind him who I think could be pretty solid, and that includes Seth Smith out of Boise State. I think Smith's a solid player, although he can get a little bit handsy. He's called for more penalties as opposed to some of the other top tackles, and he's not very good in the run game, but I think he's a good athlete, really good pass protector. And then Ryan Walling out of Florida State's another guy who I think is more of an upside swing, another guy who's a really impressive athlete, but maybe isn't as consistent as some of these other guys. So I think he's a little bit of a gamble, but I do think he could be a pretty good player. Along with those guys who could be first rounders, there are some interesting potential depth options down the board at both left and right tackle. The Dragons have not drafted an offensive lineman before day 3 in this series, but that's where we've found some talent, such as Royal Osuchua. Let's move over to left guard. Gregor Clegane out of Ohio State is currently the top projected guard in this draft. I think he's one of the most pro-ready, polished players within the class, and he'd be able to slide in right away for a team who needs some offensive line help. I think Creighton King out of Colorado is a pretty talented player as well, and he could possibly go in the first round too. I think he's a little bit worse than Clegane, but he's built pretty similarly, 6'6", 337 pounds. Clegane 6'6", 335. So they're pretty much in the same ballpark there. And then in terms of day 3 guys, I really like Foye Bandara out of Virginia Tech. I think this is somebody who's got some real upside, really intriguing athlete. He's new to the position, and because of that, I think he's got a ways to go, but I think he could be really good down the line. At right guard, we've got a few more guys who could potentially vie to go in the first round, and that includes Samandre Mack, another Alabama offensive lineman. This is another guy who I think is going to be really pro-ready as soon as he enters the NFL. That Alabama development system remains undefeated. I think Rudy Salomon out of Oklahoma is pretty good as well. He's definitely not as good in pass protection as Mack, but I think as a run blocker, he's just as good and very well could play himself into first-round conversation, especially with a good combine, which he does project to be one of the better offensive linemen in terms of the athletic testing. Kerry Vialia out of Tennessee, I think, is pretty good as well. I think he's a pretty well-rounded player across the board. He doesn't hold many major weaknesses. Solid in the run game, solid in the passing game, solid enough athlete. I think the floor of him is high enough to feel confident that you're getting an NFL starter. Billing Bone out of Mississippi State, I think, is the guy to watch down the board. He's probably going to be a day 2 pick, late 2nd, early 3rd, his current projection. But I think with the year he's had with Mississippi State, he could be a really good player. As we look at center, it's definitely not as talented compared to tackle and guard, but I do like Shamar Watson-Lansdale out of the University of Oregon, another talented Duck offensive lineman. I think he's a pretty high floor player who should be a starting caliber center right off rip. And I think Raymond Reed and Victorious Nwango could be solid day 2 picks as well, but there's definitely not as much depth at center as opposed to tackle and guard. And I definitely could see the Dragons using an early pick on the offensive line. As for the defensive line, I think this is an interesting group because obviously we have Simeon Bonnet, who hasn't been very healthy this year, but we know how impactful he is. How many other guys on this defensive line are going to be long-term pieces, though? Khalil Mack has been inconsistent this year, and more so than anything, he's 34 years old. I think B.J. Ojulari's been a positive piece, but he's not really a proven commodity. And then at defensive tackle, we've added some intriguing young players here like DeJuan Overton and Orlin Babylon, but those guys aren't necessarily proven either. I don't think I would say Joseph Osai or Trayshawn Blyshenden are set, solidified long-term starters as well. So other than Simeon Bonnet, we've just got a lot of question marks there right now. While I would expect a couple of these young guys to eventually develop, the Dragons need more pieces around Simeon Bonnet without a doubt. So because of that, I think adding a defensive lineman early would not be a bad idea, and I think it's a pretty strong class at defensive line. There are some good players to the top who we're probably not going to get, but some guys down the board who I think we've got a shot at. Currently, as things stand now, Caleb Maben out of Florida is the very slight favorite to be the number 1 pick. It's not convincing or anything since there's no clear top guy this year, but I really like Maben. He wasn't a super highly regarded recruit with the Gators, but he's really developed well. He's got a wide array of pass rush moves, pretty solid athlete, and we've seen him develop into a 3-star recruit, into one of the best defensive players, not just in the SEC, but in all of college football. I don't think it's unanimous that he's the top left end in this class, though, because Prabhakara Claude out of Navy is a really intriguing player in his own right. At just 20 years old, he's one of the youngest players in this draft compared to Caleb Maben, who's going to be 23 on draft night. So that's a 3-year age difference already. I think Claude is a lot more raw. He's got a lot of work to do, but I think the physical tools are there, and he's got the ceiling to potentially become a really good player. Whereas with Maben, I don't know if he has that Myles Garrett, Max Crosby Defensive Player of the Year type upside. I think that Mustafa Diaby out of Arizona very well could be a first-rounder as well. I don't think he's got as big of a toolbox of pass rushing moves as the top 2 guys here have, but I think he's a pretty intriguing player. I think he's the most consistent in run defense as well. And then as we move over to right end, another guy who could contend for the number 1 pick, Dragan Markovic out of USC. I think Markovic has got an intriguing skill set because he is an unbelievable run defender. Definitely the best amongst the edge rushers in this class. I think he relies on his power and quickness a little bit too much as a pass rusher, and that might not fly in the NFL. I think that's the one weakness with him. But I think with his athleticism and his motor in the run game, he could be a really, really good player and could end up being the top selection in this year's draft. As for some other potential first-rounders, I really like the floor of Junior Miro out of Texas A&M. This is a guy who's been as steady as they come over the last 3 seasons with the Aggies, getting at least 6 sacks and 15 tackles for loss in all of the last 3 years with a high pressure rate. Prince Nwoko out of the University of South Florida is kind of the opposite. I think this is a guy who's really a late bloomer. He's broken out this season. He's an impressive athlete, but we haven't necessarily seen the long-term consistency with him as we have with some of the other top defensive players in this class. In terms of depth down the board, I think Williamson Wilson out of LSU could be an intriguing player. Despite the fact that the Tigers lost 2 key defensive linemen last year, Sir Broderick Hillingham and Orlin Babylon, Wilson's production has actually gone up. He's had a great senior season with the Tigers and has been a great player. At right end, we've got guys like A.J. Price and Orlando Adams who could be day 2 picks. I like Hendon Clearwater a lot as well. But I think Nnamdi Sanaga out of Washington, currently projected to go in the 4th round, could be the guy to watch here. I think his athletic tools make him a really intriguing player, and he's had a very productive season with the Washington Huskies. His stock has gone up throughout the year, and I think he's a guy who could continue to rise come draft night. Let's take a look inside at defensive tackle. I think this is a pretty strong group. Maybe not as strong as last year's interior defensive line class, but still pretty solid. That starts with Chiuba Monger out of Michigan. I think this is a guy who's going to be able to come into the NFL right away and be a really good player because he has multiple ways of getting to the quarterback. He's impressive in the run game, and I think he's an NFL-level athlete. I think Carmelo Finnegan is even more of a freak than Monger is. I think he's a lot more raw, and he's got more work to do, especially as a pass rusher, but I think the upside with him could be really good. As for Quincy Carter, I kind of view him in the opposite end of the spectrum. I think he's really polished. He's got a really good display of pass rushing moves. I don't think he's necessarily as impressive as an athlete as the top 2 defensive tackles, but I think with the floor, you're getting somebody who's going to be able to start right away and be an impactful pass rusher. Melvick Strong, I think, is one of the better run defenders in this class. Despite only being 6'1", 300 pounds, he is a real run stuffer. He plays a lot of nose tackle despite only being 300 pounds, and I think he's really fit that role well with the Tide. There are a few defensive tackles here who could go on day 2, but I think the name to watch would be Levelyn Brown Jr. out of Baylor. He's a really impressive pass rusher, better than a lot of these defensive linemen who are projected to go ahead of him. And I think he's kind of being slept on. I think he's probably going to go in the 2nd or 3rd round, and I think that's a little bit disrespectful. I think it's a pretty intriguing group of offensive and defensive linemen in this year's class. Let me know what you thought of some of these prospects down below in the comments, and if the Dragons should invest some early draft picks into a few of these players. Let's now focus on our opponent this week, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and take a look at our current situation. Obviously, we are not currently in the playoff picture, whereas everybody else in the NFC West is. At 6-6, we are currently a game back of Seattle, who's currently the 7th seed, and we're a few more games back of the Rams and Niners at the top of the division. With Seattle in 7th, we are a game back, along with Minnesota and the Giants. Those are going to be 2 teams that we certainly monitor as well. We don't want them winning. As for the Buccaneers, they are at the bottom, the exact bottom. They are not doing too good this year. So I assume many of you guys have been curious about this little pop-up message that says breakout quarterback. Let's take a look at what this entails, because obviously Puma Whitlock already has Superstar X Factor. So this boost would likely be for a substantial amount of XP, which sounds pretty nice. And it's against a Buccaneers team who isn't all that good. Now it's going to be a big challenge. Throw 1 or fewer interceptions. I think that's not too hard. He's only had 1 multi-interception game this year. And get 400 scrimmage yards or 4 total touchdowns. I think doing one of those 2 is going to be a little bit more challenging. I think he's probably had a few games where he's gotten 400 scrimmage yards, and he's probably had a couple with 4 total touchdowns. But I think that's going to be the real challenge. So as long as he keeps the ball out of harm's way, I do think he'll have the opportunity to do it. But it's going to be tough. He's going to need to make plays as a runner for sure, and I think if he does, he'll have a real shot. He's going to have to do it with no Griffin Weaver in the lineup. He got hurt a few weeks ago, but we got to see the development last week of Arturo Modelo, who had a complete breakout game, 12 catches for 160 yards, seemingly out of nowhere. I'm curious to see if that performance from Modelo proves to be a coincidence or if he's actually really good. I find it funny that Puma's breakout challenge is against the Bucks because they were the one team who had an opportunity to draft him ahead of us. They chose not to, and boy, are they regretting it. They had the lowest scoring offense in the NFL. Their defense isn't good, but it's not like a complete train wreck. The problem with this team is their offense is completely inept and broken. If they had drafted the great quarterback prospect with the number 1 pick, in which they had an opportunity to do so, then maybe, just maybe, their offense would be a little bit better. I think not picking him really could become one of the biggest recent mistakes in NFL draft history. The player they chose over him was Notre Dame pass rusher Solomane Sumaro, who's not a bad player by any stretch. He's had a pretty solid start to his career, but if they really wanted to get a big pass rusher, they could have waited until the second round and just drafted Simeon Bonnet and pick sniped us twice. Obviously, they moved up in the first round that year to draft Deacon Adderley, the quarterback out of Oklahoma. And the ironic thing with this was if they were to pick Puma Whitlock with the number 1 pick like they should have, we would have moved up for Deacon Adderley, and he would have probably been the starting quarterback at the Dragons right now. I don't think Deacon Adderley is the problem per se with the Buccaneers, but he hasn't necessarily been the solution. And man, we are lucky that Puma Whitlock is our quarterback instead of him. Their backup is former Dragon Zach Wilson, which is also kind of funny. This team has a lot of the same talent that they've had over the last few years, and even from their Super Bowl run. They've tried to keep too many of the older players on the roster, and it just hasn't really worked, with some guys not really staying good. A lot of these older players are getting worse, whereas somebody like Devin White, an ascending young player, they let go of in the expansion draft, and obviously he has become one of the faces of our defense. So if not for the Buccaneers being inept, we probably would not have Puma Whitlock or Devin White on the roster right now. Just because they're 1-11 and they're horrible, though, doesn't mean we can take these guys lightly. I think we kind of took the 1-win Chicago Bears lightly a few weeks ago, and we ended up losing that game. We cannot let the same mistake happen here against the Buccaneers team, who is really bad, but they've got some talent on both sides of the ball, and I don't want to completely overlook these guys. So here comes Puma Whitlock against the team who passed on him in the NFL draft. Puma's got a big breakout opportunity here today as he looks to take the next step in his development and hopefully get a substantial amount of XP. It's an early 3rd and 1 here for the Dragons. Puma in shotgun looks to throw it. He rolls out to the left and is under pressure from Solomane Sumaro as the pass is tipped and incomplete. Could have been intercepted by one of the pass rushers, but the big fella was unable to hold on to the ball. So here's the Buccaneers offense led by Deacon Adderley, the second-year quarterback out of Oklahoma, as he connects up the middle with a nice throw to the veteran wideout Mike Evans, who gains around 16. Evans got an early step there on Jeff Okudah, who's had a really solid season, but got toasted on that play. Downfield shot is overthrown for Godwin. He was wide open. I don't know why Cam Lucifer is celebrating. That was a terrible cover rep by the rookie. Deacon Adderley had a touchdown if he makes that throw. On second down, Adderley has Evans wide open, quickly hit by Okudah, but not before getting the first down. And the Buccaneers offense is looking, dare I say, not too bad so far. 3rd and 6, play action fake. Adderley up the middle. He connects with Chris Godwin, who brings it to the 16-yard line. This time he connects with Rod God, and the Bucs keep the chains moving. On first down, it's a play action. Adderley keeps it on the ground, gets lit up, and he's hurt. This is not good news for the Buccaneers because Deacon Adderley has a long injury history dating back to his college days with the Oklahoma Sooners. He's not going to go to the locker room. It looks like he'll be fine. But for now, it's the MILF Hunter, Mormon Mahomes, Zach Wilson at quarterback, the former Dragon, as he connects with Mike Evans, who brings it to the 1. Wilson, of course, was our inaugural starting quarterback. Things did not go well in year 1, of course. Fumble! Big hit by Devin White. The Bucs recover, but it's a loss of 4. The fullback, Wes Saxton, gets annihilated by White, who forces his NFL-leading 4th fumble of the season. The Buccaneers are still kicking themselves for letting Devin White go in the expansion draft. 3rd and goal, Wilson throws it in the back of the end zone looking for Mike Evans. but the pass is incomplete. And the goal line defense gets the stand, and the Bucs are only going to be able to settle for 3 points. But nonetheless, Tampa Bay doesn't look too bad so far. They got a 3-and-out on defense. They bring it all the way to the 1 on offense. The Dragons return on offense as Swift fumbles the ball, and it's picked up by the defense. Shaq Barrett rips it away, and it's recovered by Carlton Davis. Swift now back-to-back weeks with a fumble. He's got to clean up the ball security. Adderley on first down is sacked. Half a sack for Jordan Whitehead along with the rookie Samasoni Saluni. 3rd and 16 now from the 33. Adderley and White in the backfield. Adderley looks to throw it under a lot of pressure from Simeon Bonnet. He's lit up. And the pass is incomplete. Good to see Adderley back in the game, though, after getting shaken up on the last drive. Field goal unit returns here for the Bucs. It's a 50-yard try here for Tampa Bay. Kick is up, looks good, and it is good. So the DeAndre Swift fumble directly results in 3 points for Tampa, and they now lead 6-0. Dragons back with it. Isaiah Likely gets the team's first down of the day. I wish it would have taken quicker than 7 minutes, but better late than never, I suppose. The Dragons are moving it pretty well down the field now on first down. Deep shot is caught by the rookie out of the University of Miami. It's Arturo Modelo coming off a big game last week. Modelo already with a few catches early today. 2nd and goal. Puma Whitlock calls an audible. Play action fake for Juskins. Puma on the run has Jamison Williams wide open for a touchdown. And the St. Louis Dragons take the lead. J-Mo's been really good all season, but I feel like early in the year he had a hard time scoring touchdowns, and now teams can't keep him out of the end zone. Bucs back with it. Pass is broken up on 3rd down by DeMar Diggins, Adderley's former Oklahoma teammate. That'll lead to a punt, and the Dragons get it back. Puma with a downfield strike for Modelo. He brings it to the 30. Things are looking up here for the Dragons in the second quarter, and things are definitely looking up for Arturo Modelo, who already has 6 catches for 74 yards, and there's still 6 minutes left in the first half. Play action fake. Puma on the run. He's intercepted. Carlton Davis picks it off, and all the positive momentum that the Dragons had is gone in an instant. A big turnover forced by Davis, and now Puma Whitlock cannot throw another interception or else the breakout challenge is failed. Adderley on 3rd and 10 throws it away, so at least the Buccaneers don't get any points out of the turnover. The defense looked a little shaky on that first drive, but the Bucs do not have the first down since their opening possession. Dragons back with it, 3rd and 10, play action. Puma looks to throw it. He's going downfield. It's broken up by Derek Justice. Remember, the Dragons wanted to pick him last year, and the Bucs pick-sniped him 1 spot ahead of us. Bucs back with it. Still only a 1-point game. Here is Adderley up the middle as a wide-open man. It's the running back, Rachaad White. He brings it to the 47-yard line. Adderley has not been overly efficient today, only 6 of 14, but he's made some good throws. Bucs nearing the 2-minute warning, looking to get the lead back here late in the second quarter. As on 3rd and 8. Adderley looks to throw it. Clean pocket. Wide open up the middle. That's the tight end, Cade Otton. And that'll bring us to the 2-minute warning. Another 3rd down now. 3rd and 10 from the 20. 1:51 to go in the half. Adderley looks to throw it up the middle. Has an open man. That's another first down. Another big conversion for Tampa Bay. It's Cade Otton who comes down with it once again. 2nd and goal. Minute 17 now. Not a ton of time left in the first half. Adderley rolls out under pressure. He's sacked. Simeon Bonnet brings him down for his 4th sack of the year. Obviously, Bonnet hasn't had the year that he would have hoped for after such a good rookie year, mixed with injuries and inconsistencies as a pass rusher, but he is still winning often at the line of scrimmage, and I still feel like he's been super impactful. Nearly a pick 6 if Jordan Whitehead caught it. He had the ball right in his hands there on 3rd down, but can't come down with it. Field goal unit returns, 2 for 2 already, make it 3 for 3, and the Buccaneers take the lead with a minute left to go here in the first half. Big drive here for the Dragons. Let's see if they can take the lead. Puma up the middle, connects with the tight end Isaiah Likely. Dragons call their second timeout at the 38-yard line. Following play with 35 seconds left on the clock, Puma looks downfield. It's caught by the rookie. It's Modelo time. Arturo Modelo is in for a touchdown, and the St. Louis Dragons get the lead back. This rookie is developing into a star right in front of their eyes. Last week's performance was not a mirage. This kid is a stud. Arturo Modelo has 8 catches for 124 yards and a touchdown in just the first half. What a showing by the rookie. 3rd and 10 for the Bucs. Rachaad White gets smothered in the backfield by Simeon Bonnet, who continues to make a big impact defensively, and that'll wrap up the first half. Has it been pretty? No. But the Dragons lead it 14-9, and Arturo Modelo looks like the best thing since sliced bread. Let's take a look at our halftime report. We will start off in Buffalo, a division rivalry here between the Bills and the Dolphins. You would think this would be a pretty high-scoring game, but that has not been the case. This touchdown by Jared Richardson has been the only form of points today. Bills lead it 7-0. In Chicago, the Raiders look dominant so far. Kyler Murray's got them boys looking good. The Raiders are 6-6, currently fighting for a playoff spot in the AFC. And this dominant start, 17-0, certainly looks like the Raiders are hungry to make it back into the playoffs once again. And finally, in the Meadowlands, the Denver Broncos currently at the edge over the Giants. Second-round rookie quarterback Zachariah Drake is now the starter. He's looking really good. Broncos country, let's ride. Hopefully they can beat the Giants because that's one of the teams who is a direct competitor for the 7th seed in the NFC. As we go into the second half, I want to see Puma Whitlock continue to perform. He seems to be really comfortable throwing the ball to Arturo Modelo, but I want to see the other guys continue to get involved as well. Defensively, it's been a mixed bag. There's been a lot of good and a lot of bad from Deacon Adderley so far. The Bucs do start with the ball in the second half. Big opportunity to strike. Adderley is an open man up the middle. It's Cade Otton. Adderley's missed a lot of throws. I think the pass rush has been pretty good. The coverage has been solid, except for in the intermediate area of the field. That's where Adderley's been able to cook today. Now on the read option. Big run for Deacon Adderley as he's wrapped up at the 41-yard line by the rookie Cam Lucifer II. 3rd and 1 now, nearing the red zone. It's going to be a run up the middle. Rachaad White, in his 4th season out of Arizona State, gets the first down, and the Bucs offense is looking really strong as they've got a nice opportunity to potentially take the lead. Adderley's pass is picked off! Demore Diggins with the interception, and he returns it to the 21-yard line. Couple of Oklahoma teammates there connecting on that pass. Big interception by Diggins, his first of the year, and the Dragons hold on to their lead. It's a screen for Jameson Williams, gets a nice block from Modelo, and he brings it to the 50-yard line. The Dragons are using Jameson Williams more in short yardage situations, and I think he's really excelled as a guy who can make plays after the catch. On 2nd down, J-Mo completely wide open. The Buccaneers decided to run cover 0 that play, where they cover 0 receivers, literally. From the 16, Puma's in the zone. He's going to look to run with it. He's got a hole, and Puma Whitlock slides at the 1. Nice run here for Puma Whitlock. He's got a shot to complete this breakout challenge, especially if he scores a touchdown here, and he connects with a wide-open Isaiah Likely for a score. Puma Whitlock now has 3 touchdowns from scrimmage today. He would only need 1 more to complete the challenge. And I don't think 400 scrimmage yards is out of the possibility. Now, he's got to make sure he doesn't throw another interception. Otherwise, it's null and void. Bucs back with it. Adderley escapes the pressure, and he dives forward to the 37. Good run there by Deacon Adderley, showing his ability as a dual-threat quarterback. Now in the 4th quarter, Dragons appear to have a nice lead up by 12. It's a wheel route. White, wide open, burns Devin White, and brings it to the 10-yard line. Nice play there by Rachaad White as the Buccaneers are getting pretty close to the end zone. 2nd and goal from the 1, really more so the half-yard line. Back to the fullback, and he gets stuffed. It's been a tough one for Saxton as he gets smothered by Orlin Babylon, the rookie out of LSU. 3rd and goal now from the 3. Can Tampa Bay punch it in? Adderley looks short. He's got Godwin for the score. Chris Godwin with Tampa Bay's first touchdown of the game, and the Bucs are right back within 1 score. It's 21-16. Dragons back with it. Puma's still in the zone. Rolls out to the right side. He's going to look to run with it with plenty of room. Big run for Puma as he's pushed out of bounds, but not before bringing it past midfield to the 46-yard line. 3rd and 10 now with 6 to play. Puma out of the zone as his pass is dropped by Darwin Juskins. Good defense there by Derek Justice. And ultimately, the Dragons would punt it. And that'd be a good decision because Presley Harvin would get it down at the 5. So the Buccaneers have an opportunity to potentially take the lead. They're going to need to drive the length of the field, but they've got more than enough time to do it. Adderley up the middle with a strike for Russell Gage. That'll get them out of safety territory as Gage gains 26 through the air. The Bucs are looking good on this drive. They have it past the 50. 2nd and 5. Adderley under pressure, looks, and he fires for Mike Evans. Gets by Diggins and is wrapped up at the 33. Tampa Bay's in field goal range. I imagine they're looking for more than a field goal, but if nothing else, they should absolutely score some points on this drive. 3rd and 10. Adderley looks to throw it. Under a lot of pressure from Bonnet, and he throws it away. Good pass rush, good coverage. What do you do here if you're the Bucs? Do you go for it or do you take the points? They're going to send the field goal unit out. 50-yard try, not a chip shot, shaky kick, and it does fall. So the Buccaneers bring the lead to 2, and now the Dragons are going to look to chew some clock and finish this game. Puma Whitlock still has a breakout challenge to complete, but the number one priority for the Dragons is going to be getting the win. If it means he doesn't complete the challenge, so be it. Puma downfield, he's intercepted! Oh no! Carlton Davis picks it off. That's a double whammy. The breakout challenge is completely out the window because he's thrown 2 picks. And even worse, the Buccaneers are in field goal range, and all they need is 3 points to take the lead. On 3rd and 6, Adderley under pressure, finds a hole, escapes the pocket like Houdini, and he just is shy of the first down marker. Big tackle by another former Buccaneer, Jordan Whitehead. Tampa Bay's going to kick here on 4th and inches. They could try to punch it in and control the clock, but instead they want to guarantee that they get the lead. Kick is good. Their kicker's 5 for 5 today, and they trust their defense to get the stop. The breakout challenge is out the door. We don't need to think about that anymore. Now it's time to just get the win. All the Dragons need is 3 points. Puma Whitlock is really good in these 2-minute drill type of drives. Let's see if he can lead a game winner for the Dragons as he's under pressure on 1st down. Got to get rid of it, and he doesn't. He loses 20 on the sack, wrapped up by Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. He tried to get rid of the ball, but he couldn't do it in time. So now it's a 2nd and 30 from the 1. Puma's got to avoid the safety as he is likely wide open for the 1st down and more. A gain of 32 yards. Puma's big mistake proves to end up not being costly. Under a minute to go, Puma rolls out to the left, and this time he's actually going to make sure he gets rid of it as he throws it away. Dicker warming up on the sideline. Dragons still with all 3 timeouts. 2nd down, short throw, caught by Jamo. He's out of bounds. That was a risky pass. Good catch by Jamo, and a good job to get out of bounds to stop the clock. 42 seconds left, 3rd and 5. Puma looks to throw it. He has a wide open man. It's Michael Gallup, who stays inbounds, but he brings it past the 50. And the Dragons finally use timeout number 1. They're not too far away from field goal range, though. Maybe 10 more yards. Here's Puma. Launches a rocket. Is it Modelo time? Not quite. It's broken up in the secondary. Incomplete. The Dragons feel like they have a little extra time now with the 2 timeouts to be aggressive. On 2nd down, Puma under pressure. Got to get rid of it, and he will throw it away. Now the Dragons have to be smart here. It's 3rd and 10. You've got 2 plays to get a 1st down here. Puma looking to throw it. He's under a lot of pressure. Rolls out to the right side. Look at all that room. Puma Whitlock out of bounds at the 21. What a play by Puma Whitlock, extending it out of the pocket. He now has 69 rushing yards. Nice. And now the Dragons are going to look to center the kick. They don't do it on 1st down. Swift just runs to the other side. Dragons call their 2nd timeout. Now on 2nd and 8. They'll get another opportunity to center the kick, and this time DeAndre Swift does it correctly. The Dragons are going to let the clock run to 2, call their last timeout, and now it's time for the field goal unit to win the game. Cameron Dicker from 35 yards out as the Buccaneers call a timeout to look to ice the kicker. Can the youngster, Cameron Dicker, the kicker, finish it off for the game? It's up, and it's right down the middle. The St. Louis Dragons survive 24-22, winning at the last possible second against the now 1-12 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Would I have preferred that we played better today? Absolutely. We did not play a good game whatsoever. But A win's a win. And in the NFL, you'll take it, even if it was not pretty. But this team's got a lot to work on. Puma Whitlock does not complete the breakout challenge. Of the 3 possible things he needed to complete, he ended up completing none of them. Although he was pretty close in getting 400 scrimmage yards. He had 3 touchdowns, and he only threw the second interception late, but he did miss some throws down the stretch. But that last drive, though, after the big sack, he was pretty clutch. So I got to give him a shout out there. As for Deacon Adderley, I saw some good from him, but he was very inaccurate. On the ground, both teams ran the ball fine. Both quarterbacks were very effective running it. Arturo Modelo looks like a stud. He was quiet in the second half, only 1 catch for 6 yards, but it doesn't really matter because he was so good in the first half. J-Mo and Likely were both really good. Quiet game, though, from Tykeem Keon. He's kind of cooled off after his big stretch. Simeon Bonnet played well, and we only had 1 play, which was the big sack late, that went for a tackle for loss. We did not have any other plays where we were tackled behind the line of scrimmage, and I think that's a really big deal because that's been an issue with this team. Too many tackles for loss from the other team. That was not the case today. Couple turnovers on both sides. We got to clean those up. We turned it over 3 times. That's not the recipe to success. Luckily, we still won, but you can't expect to turn the ball over 3 times and get a win, even if it's against a bad team like the Buccaneers. Unfortunately, we did not complete the breakout challenge with Puma Whitlock. I don't think it's the end of the world. It would have been nice to get all that XP. I think we would have gotten around 20,000, which is good enough for 2 to 3 skill points, which would have been really nice, but his development is still going very well. I'm not going to worry about it too much, although hopefully next week he keeps better care of the football. Those 2 interceptions were both not particularly ideal. Luckily, we got the win. I think that's what matters more, but it would have been nice to still complete the challenge. We don't have any new injuries, and we are actually getting healthy at the right time. For a team who's been hammered by injuries this year, Griffin Weaver is going to be the only guy hurt next week, and even he only has 1 more week until he's back. Our team is so healthy. Is that going to last? Probably not, but we can get excited. We're still in last place in the division for now, but depending on what happens around the league, we've got an opportunity to climb up. Lucky for us, both Seattle and Minnesota lost, while the Giants came back and beat the Broncos. Of the 3 teams we're rooting for to lose, 2 of them lost. Not bad. Players of the week, Brock Purdy, Mac Jones, Aaron Donald, and Myles Murphy. So with 4 weeks to go, we're still out of the playoff picture, but we made up a lot of ground. We're tied with Seattle now, who's currently the 7th seed. We're also tied with the New York Giants. So we've got an opportunity to potentially grab one of these playoff spots, being tied for 7th place. Now, it's not going to be easy. Next episode, we've got the Niners and the Rams. We have beat both of these teams on the road this year. So we know we have the ability to beat these guys. And in those 2 games, we outscored them 58-16. We blew these 2 teams out of the water in their home stadiums. It's so hard to beat teams in the NFL in the same year twice. Both of these teams are going to have an extra chip on their shoulder because we annihilated them in their home turf. And obviously these 2 teams need to win because they're fighting for a division, they're fighting for seeding. So I think this is going to be a really interesting stretch of 2 games to really test where our team currently is against 2 teams that probably don't really like us right now. I hope you guys are ready for that episode, and I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace out.